You ready?
All right. Hold on. I want to click that.
You gotta go live. You can click it there, right?
No, I don't think so.
You just did it.
No. Oh yeah, from here. Yeah. I gotta go. Good.
All right, we're live, right?
Yeah. Gosh, that's something.
Hit escape.
And then check the Instagram camera. All right. Let's see. Is it bigger? All right. Yeah.
All right. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us tonight. Marriage Fit Friday. So we have some special guests that are joining our show tonight. And we're going to get into it as far as asking questions through the eyes of a married couple and then also to a dating couple.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, the whole perspective when you're single too, and making that transition. So it's going to look a little different tonight. It is like we were telling our Instagram viewers that usually we encourage you all to join us onto our YouTube platform because then it's a whole different experience. It looks different. We're going to bring on and share our screen, but it's now we're computerized.
Yep. Yeah,
it's a little different.
Yeah, so Instagram viewers, if you all can, all 6,800 of you all,
yeah,
if you all can transfer over to YouTube, and then you will see the this video in HD sound and audio as well, and video as well.
Right.
So you can get the full experience as opposed to what we can only do with the tablet.
Right, because unfortunately their platforms don't link. Like Instagram is like its own solid little platform. Yeah, yep, exactly. Great word, babe. It is. And so in order to make our way to make it work so that you can at least experience these couples, we're so excited to actually have one of our first times doing this that will definitely continue doing because this is for sure going to benefit our community. It's a great way to come in, talk to other couples, talk to other people that are dating, share experiences. Not only does this connect us as a community, but it also helps us to learn from other people, to gain their wisdom, their strengths, the things that worked for them, and then also to look out for the things that, they went through. And so that we don't fall victim and have to make the same mistakes. We can learn and gain wisdom from somebody else ahead of time. I think that will really benefit our community. And I'm excited that our platform is able to offer this and we will continue to offer it. And of course, get better and better at doing this. So thank you all for our first time doing it. It's not exactly how we want to, but thank you for joining us and just trust. It's going to get better and better as we go along. So yeah, let's dig on in. We're going to bring everybody in. Oh, do you want to?
Yeah, let me plug that in.
Okay, so we're going to bring everybody in up on the screen, and we would love for everybody to introduce yourselves. And they are also have their own platforms as well, which is amazing. We always say up here there needs to be a whole bunch of us because in that way we can all reach larger audiences and really be able to connect with spread the word and really connect with more people than only one man or one woman can do, So this is an exciting thing as we pull in pull in all of our platforms, make sure we're good. We had to plug in our computer. Ooh, that's the things y'all get when you get a live show. You get all of
it.
Exciting. Go ahead, everybody. Yourself. I want to pull this. Hold on. This is not going to let me pull this down. I don't know how to pull that down. I wish I could pull that down. But, oh, well. At least y'all could see good. I wish you see that right there. I'm trying to figure out how to move that if we can.
No, it's just floating, so you can only.
Yeah. Sorry, Instagram, y'all. Y'all going to have to see that one part. But everybody's good. Okay. So go ahead. Take it away, you guys. Whoever wants to start first, introduce yourselves. Let us know all about you. Starting off.
What's going on, y'all? I'm Philosophical, of course, from the Let's Rock podcast, along with my co-host Che Echo. This is my wife, Kawana.
Hello.
We have been together a total of 4 years, married 2.5 years out of those 4 years. So we're still not freshly, but we're getting into finishing strides. Well, lifetime strides. So.
Lifetime strides.
Yeah. So I'm Kawana, Philosophical's wife. Like you said, we've been together for 4 years now. We met at work, and he swept me off my feet, and we've been rolling since then.
Still sweeping.
Yeah. Hello to everybody. My name is Jay Echo. What's good with you? I am in a new relationship actually. My relationship started in May. So May? Yeah, May actually. It doesn't feel like that much time has passed. But yeah, met my partner on Hinge actually. And yeah, so I guess it would be the modern form of dating at this point. So, just ready to share and looking forward to today's topic.
All right, sounds good. And thank you all for joining us. And we really appreciate you all being here with us. There you go. That's a better view.
Thank you for having us.
Yep. Thank you. So I guess we can go ahead and just dive on into it so we can share with the people about the relationships, and then also to pretty much what it takes in this day and age. And then the first question, all right, this would be for Philosophical and Kawana. What are some ways you have seen your relationship evolve over time?
Yeah, especially because when you started before, since you did have some time before you actually got married, how did that evolve? Like,
Sure. Yeah. I think for on my side, being able to have conversations that I feel that are kind of hard to have in relationships. Example like finances. We were talking a little bit about this earlier. Finances, needs and wants, kind of plans, future plans, present plans, goals. So I think our relationship has really evolved to be able to be open to each other's ideas, being able to, I know for myself, being able to understand what she may want to communicate to me and vice versa. I'm actually still kind of learning that.
Right.
Being able to really just be open to at least hearing each other out as far as those things.
Yeah, I definitely think how we handle conflict, that's been a major thing that's been evolving over time. I think we've always been pretty good, but the longer you're together, the more you learn each other, the more you learn what ticks the other person off, the more you can learn how to communicate what you're feeling better, so that it gets across to them instead of it, triggering them or getting on the nerves.
Right.
So for me, that's been one thing. And another thing has been just expressing myself and saying what I want, how I feel, and not holding that in, because prior to this relationship, I never really expressed the things that were on my mind much. I was more of a listener for other people, but just learning how to express myself, and it's just been freeing, just a freeing experience being in a relationship and being able to be open and honest with somebody.
Right. I did wanted to say that, and that's something that I've learned too, being married, is conflict resolution, and how important it is to care about other my wife's feelings, and how different it is by being a single man and then coming into a relationship and realizing that, hey, I actually have someone to argue with, or someone to have to pay attention to their feelings and not wanting to upset them. And that's something that we teach on our show, is that proper conflict resolution skills of rectifying issues, talking about what the issue is and not about each other. And then also to talking about ways that we can negotiate or compromise the situation, and then finally putting it into the action, which is resolve. And those are things that I've never done before, to be honest with you, until I was married. I grew up with a brother, and we just fought it out. So siblings are different, but when you're with a relationship and you want to be intentional about it and want to carry it through the end, all the way through, then things change. Then you have to really put your best foot forward to actually want to learn to resolve conflict. So yes, yep, I agree with you all there.
Absolutely.
How long have you all known each other, and then also too, how long have you all been married?
They said 2
years. Okay,
so how long? 2.5.
It'll be 2 years in March.
Yeah.
How long have you all known each other?
Like completely, yeah.
4 years total.
Yeah, 4
okay,
years.
Right when y'all started, when y'all met. Oh, so that's even,
right.
Right when you met, it was like,
As soon as we met, that's when we started dating. Like,
oh, wow.
the night that he approached me, we've been talking since that day.
Yeah.
Like we started dating probably that weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I like how you said that you all are co-workers. And then for a lot of our young viewers is that, especially when they leave out of college, the only other place that you spend the most time at is at work.
Exactly.
It's just home and work.
Right.
Yeah.
So
unless you're in the street and then you got the club or whatever else.
Right.
But
but I don't condone finding love in the club. So
exactly.
It's probably by far the worst place to do it. But yeah, so for the younger viewers that's out there, then if you are waiting to get married, then more than likely you're going to find your next spouse at work. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. I think that's also good to know in the sense of that you can work together, because you actually had to like work together, and that's a great time to practice on your relationship as well. So that leads us actually to our next question, more so leaning towards the single people. How do you find this balance between actually dating and actually being in a relationship, and then having to, work on other things outside of, work, maybe that's even yourself, but like, how do you as a man like manage that and all you're trying to do and still build a relationship, being that times have changed things, right? This is not the same like in the 90s dating, this is a whole new deal.
Yeah. I'll take that one because this is actually a conversation I had to have with my lady recently. So I am somebody I've started putting it this way just because it seems to encompass all of the things I want to accomplish, but like I'm kind of greedy, meaning I want to do everything all at once at the same time. So for instance, I have 2 jobs. I have a podcast. I'm trying to see if I can start a business. I'm trying to see if I could like all of the things. And then on top of that, I decided to enter a relationship. And so it's like, all right, timing wise, how does this work out? You know, and it became a thing where it was like, all right, when are my spare moments, and how much of that time am I willing to sacrifice for money, essentially, which is essentially what you're doing when you're working a job. You're sacrificing your time for your money.
Mhm.
If you do it correctly, then you can be earning money even when you're not on the clock, so to speak. But I'm not there yet. So it was definitely something where I had to be intentional about saying like, okay, I am available mostly on weekends, but just based on how both of us operate, we know we would like to see each other more than on weekends. So how do we make that work? So for me specifically, like I know I have Wednesdays and Fridays where I'm not working, like I work nights. I know I have Wednesdays and Fridays where I don't work nights, and then most of my weekends are free. So it's like, all right, if if I budget my time properly, then Wednesday nights, Friday nights, and the weekend, I can spend this time. But when we did first start the relationship, it was just about, all right, I'll catch you on the weekends and I'll keep it pushing, like
Mhm.
that was that was my mindset because it was like, oh, I have to do all of these things. I have to keep doing all of these things. And I mean, conflict resolution, like you guys said, like she literally called me and was like, I don't feel like we spent enough time together. And I was like, all right, well, I know I have these 2 days off. It might be it might be a little bit of an adjustment for me to make time on Wednesdays and Fridays to come see you, but it's just an adjustment.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is this? I mean, asking myself, is this worth me? Am I willing to lose this just because I want to spend a little bit more time doing X, Y, and Z, or am I willing to put in the work to make sure that it continues? So,
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation everybody needs to have with themselves and with their partner. It's like, all right, are you willing to give up something for the person you say you want to be with, or are you not? Whether that thing is time, money, whatever the case may be, and that's sort of how we resolve the situation. And now, at least for me personally, it feels weird not not seeing her on specific days, because it's like, oh, I've gotten used to this already. So
Right.
yeah.
Becomes routine.
Right. Yeah. And I like, Jay, I like how you said that, was that you basically got to compromise with yourself, negotiate with yourself when you allow someone else into your personal space and want to grow a relationship with them. And so, some people, especially when they get into like their first relationships, they don't really think of it that way. And as the relationship grows on, without setting up barriers, or speaking with that person about that much time that they're actually going to spend together, it's something that they don't really pay attention to or realize that, hey, I'm forgetting that I used to spend this time with my boys or hanging out with my friends or things of that nature. But there is a compromise that you do have to make with yourself when you allow someone into your life who you choose to be intentional with, like you said, and grow in a relationship. So I think that is very important, because you just can't always think that someone's going to fit in your life currently and be fine with that.
Yeah, just the way you want it to be, with no working around, how you actually gonna make it work. Yeah.
Right.
Merge two lives.
No, yeah. So that that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I think we got really lucky because, like, for us, we were always together. Like, quality time is huge for both of us. Like, that is a priority for both of us. But like, definitely in a relationship, you have to figure out what's the most important, especially a new relationship. Am I going to keep doing what I've been doing, or do I want to prioritize this? Is this something important to me?
Yeah. And make the time for
Making
it.
the time for it.
I think one thing people realize a lot of the time, if you don't actually do that, you find out, hey, you're not really as comfortable as you thought you were. And then we look at like situations like COVID, right? Where everybody's in now lockdown, and it's like, dang, you got to spend all this time with this person. You're like, dang, I ain't used to seeing you so much. And then
it's like, do I even like you? Right. Like, and we met like right before COVID. So we were dating like in the heat of COVID, because we started at the very end of 2019. So we were basically quarantined together. I mean, we didn't live together, but we spent a lot of time together during COVID.
Yeah, and that was really good too. I think,
and it was good for us.
Other aspect of it, it accelerates that too. So if you are meant to be together and it works, then you can
find out quick.
And it really shows. Yeah, you don't need all that time. You don't need all the time. It doesn't take long to know, like, hey, this is someone I can, build my life with and actually see, spending all my time with and wanting to actually spend all my time.
Wanting to spend time with them. Yeah.
I have a question. I don't think it's up here, and this is for all of you all, but I want to get talk to Philosophical first, and then Kiwana, and then Jay. What was the reason on why you wanted to get married? What was that reason? What made that click, or what made you want to be for Jay? What made you want to be in a relationship? With the intention on one day, I'm guessing that you will want to be married. So Philosophical first.
I think for me, a lot of the things I wanted to kind of do, and a lot of the things I wanted to kind of accomplish in life, through my previous relationships, I felt it was such a shift and away from a lot of the ambitions and goals, and a lot of those previous relationships, I didn't put myself, first. So when I met Kiwana, I felt like, who I was appreciated. That was one. Two, I felt like I can build something with this person. Three, I felt like on a spiritual level, it was good for me. And four, kind of on a peaceful level, feeling like, this person, won't stress me out, won't, what I mean, make a home, makes it peaceful, makes it to where we can have conversations. And I joke this with Jay, to where I feel like, there are some aspects and thoughts that I can tell Kawana, and immediately she has a strategy and plan to do it better than the way I would do it. So those are qualities for me. Like, I felt like, all right, it brings a sense of, I got to better myself as far as being that man, as far as like, okay, what is the qualities of a successful marriage, right? And every checkpoint she did, those were new qualities for me that I weren't getting previously, right? And for me as a man, I just felt like it wasn't going to be a lot of stress. I could be able to be myself. I could be able to communicate. I could be able to make the home peaceful. We can raise children. We can build something. We can love each other. We can, I love being around her, love spending time with her, traveling. So there was just a number of things. I'm not saying, we don't have our issues or our conflicts and things like that. Every couple does, but a lot of the pros outweigh the cons for the things that I wanted out of a future wife that I wasn't looking for before, that clearly made that apparent. So yeah, and I always joke with her. She could probably tell you, every time we have an argument or a conflict, and immediately I'll tell her, I married you for who you are. And and I always make a joke to be like, you're lucky who you are, because I could have reacted differently in certain conflicts. So it's because of who she is that I don't react like I used to.
I like that. We said that yesterday. Sorry to cut you. I just want to throw this one thing in there. We said that yesterday, that you gotta take your spouse for who they are exactly in that moment, right when you meet them. Don't be trying to change them and then be like, dang, right?
Exactly.
No, you got to take them how they are, right then and there, and be like, can I live with this? Can I eat? I know you're gonna get better. I know all that other stuff, but if it don't
change, can I deal with it?
Yeah. And it was a sense of character for me. I was looking for someone that I felt like I can trust. Someone that when we do have conflicts, there's a certain way that we do handle it with each other, which makes me trust her.
Respectful.
Respectful in ways to where, if there was a conflict outside of us, I know how she would handle it. Right. So that was very key for me too. And that's fairly new for me. Because I tell you, in the beginning of our relationship, in the beginning of our marriage, I struggled with that because I would always feel like, why is she reacting so nice? Why is she so nice about this? Like, I don't understand it. Why aren't you yelling or cursing or like, throwing a pan at me or something? And she would be so nice and just so. And as a man, I didn't know how to react to that, so I had to really make an adjustment. to really look in the mirror and be like, all right, maybe I should be nice too.
There you go.
So
that was the plan all along.
Yeah, make you want to do that and take care of her, and because you care about like her feelings, and it's more like women got to realize that that's what makes the masculine want to be like, oh, I gotta protect you. My husband says that all the time. You're so sweet. Like I gotta think on doing it to you, baby. Like that's the beautiful part of it. It is.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I grew up, my parents are still married. They've been married. They just had an anniversary. They've been married 38 years. Wow. So I've grown up around marriage. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's always been the top priority in my life. I was more of the quote unquote modern woman. I wanted to go get my career, make a good wage, make money and do all that. But I got to a point where it's like, you know what? I've done all these things. I want to have a relationship. I want companionship. I want somebody by my side as I get older in life. And so, I opened myself up to it. And that's when he walked through the door. It's like he walked in as soon as I opened myself up to being married and being ready for a serious relationship. And when I met him, I just he treated me right. And I could be myself. I didn't have to put on, I didn't have to act any certain way. I could be who I am, and he loved it. He kept coming around, you know what I mean? Even to the point where, like, and I think from a past relationship, I guess, you know, cooking was this big thing, right? And I was kind of forced to do it in this, not forced, but it was a lot of pressure to do it all the time, constantly. But and to the point where in our relationship, I made a point that when we were dating, I wasn't gonna cook. And I was like, is he gonna love me if I don't cook right now? I mean, not to say that I would never cook, but I just wanted to see if he could love me even then. I think that was a little baggage I probably brought in from a previous relationship. But he stuck with me, and you know, but luckily he likes to cook, so that helps.
I bought her a cookbook.
But I don't know, he treated me well. So I knew that he was I knew immediately that he was the one. The night I met him, I called my mom the night that he approached me, and I was like, I think I met a great guy. He's husband material. I told my mom that the first day I met him. So for me, it was just a matter of him, you know, figuring it out with me to come on along.
I had a date. I had the date on what I was
gonna do. But yeah, I just knew from the beginning, honestly. I don't know if that's a woman thing or what. I don't know.
I don't know if it is, but I know for me in my relationship, it was similar but different. So like I said, I met my partner on Hinge. So
wait, Hinge is a dating site.
Dating app. Yep.
Okay.
Dating app. So you know, I mean, especially for all the folks who are watching who are single, you know how the game goes. You know, you hop on Hinge, you message like 4 or 5 people, and you hope to hear back and see what goes on from there. And Phil can attest to this because I brought a couple of my woes to him every now and again, but it was like, all right, so just ain't nobody on Hinge, just nobody. Like this, what we do? Okay, I get, and literally got to the point where I was like, so the world just wants me to be a hoe. Like that's what it is. Like this is, but you know, had it was weird because went out on the date with her and went to a speakeasy, you know, just something low key, someplace where we could actually talk and have a conversation. And we were immediately cracking jokes, and it was just like, all right, well, I know I'm like I have a well, at least to me, I have a very distinct sense of humor. So I'm like, all right, if she can keep up, then this is cool, this is dope. But I also did the thing where I was like, well, it was dope, but am I getting the rope a dope again? So I held back. And um she actually called me and was like, hey, if you're well, it wasn't this exactly, but essentially it was, hey, if you're not interested, then just let me know so I can, so I can move on. But it was like, no, I'm interested. And I was holding back because I wasn't sure how interested you were. But I mean, if this is what we're doing, then this is what we're doing. Let's get to it. And even at that point, it wasn't like I didn't want to make it official because I still had all of the, like Juana said, I still had all this baggage and stuff where I was like, what's this gonna look like? Like, am I comfortable? Am I okay? Because it felt different. Right. Like I said, I was comfortable. Like Phil said, there was peace there, which I wasn't expecting. Like one I remember there was one day where it was still during the NBA playoffs, and I just one day went over and watched the game with her, and Like when I tell you, I was so relaxed, like just, and that felt weird. One, she was into sports, which like I'm a so sports fan, but it was like we could sit there and talk about sports. We could sit there and literally watch a game together and go back and forth. We could like if it wasn't about sports, we could have things like the difficult conversations that we're talking about. Things like, all right, how much time are we going to spend together? Um, how are we going to fight? Like what? Like these were questions we asked each other at the beginning of the relationship, and it's like, all right, I haven't had these conversations with people before.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
or at least not to this extent. And so at that point, it's like, all right, this feels right,
Right. I
right?
always say that love is that it can't be that fear. You have to have that level, and it can be new. That love is that nice, comforting feeling
That
where,
peace.
yeah, and
Yeah.
if you're not
It's
used to
peace.
that, yeah, it could take you off surprise, you know.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd like to I just wanted to point out too that you all talked about baggage and how that can restrict you from communication
Mhm.
in the beginning of relationships. And that is something that is very common that a lot of people
Mhm.
do. They carry some things from their past experiences or things that, that may have been traumatic to them in some sort of way. And then they don't know what to expect, so that may also prevent people from actually trying to flourish in a relationship or be very restrictive. and
Mhm.
and and I agree. Before me and my wife had got together, I had a bad relationship. It didn't end well. It didn't go well, but um I understand, because you have to learn to kind of like trust people
Mhm.
again, and
Mhm.
and you have to look at the better side of relationships and not give up, pretty much.
Yeah, be vulnerable.
Yeah, be vulnerable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and put
Yeah.
fear aside. Yeah, because
Yep.
love and fear, we always say that love and fear are two totally different vibrations. They can't exist together.
Mm-mm.
So it's like
Right.
all of y'all actually mentioned that point of you just having to kind of let go and be like, hey, well, what happened happens. It's in that letting go. I truly believe that we're like in a limbo where we're
Yeah.
allowing ourselves in to be receptive to
Receptive.
something
Exactly.
new. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
completely new. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I didn't mention is also he was great with my family. Just watching how when he was around my family, they loved him. He was able to just move right in and just like he's always been a part of the family. So that
Mhm.
was another good thing.
It felt
Um,
natural.
it felt
Yeah.
so natural. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as it should. Well,
And he was
since
a
we're all
responsible
on
man also. Very
yeah, that's
responsible man.
always a plus, right? That's
Mhm.
always the plus. 'Cause that's what you really need
Right.
to be sure that I think it gives the woman that ease of being able to lean and
Lean
allow
on it.
him to, allow him to
That's
lean
exactly what I
and
asked for too. I just wanted somebody that could be a rock for me. You
Right.
know,
Mhm.
I had been
Yeah,
used to being a rock for so many people. I'm like, I need somewhere to lay my head,
yeah.
Right.
where I can feel safe. And he
Right.
was that place for me.
Right.
Mhm.
He's a mature man. That's what
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's what you have. You have a
Well,
very mature
I
man.
try to be.
Yes.
Right. Right. But I mean, just for the younger viewers and things like that, that's what um you become as a man. You become a
Yeah.
real man, a provider, protector, that type of person, someone you can be reliable, someone who's dependable, and things like
Mhm.
that, someone you don't have to worry about and wonder where they at every
Mm.
all at any time of the day.
Yep.
So those are the type of key things that you look for in a for the women viewers that we have out there. That's something that you look for in a man, is that dependability, that accountability, and knowing that they're going to be there for you to help support you.
And unfortunately, that's something that's not like put on a pedestal these days. Nobody's talking about like a grown man being responsible and dependable.
Right.
Everybody's talking about all these other things that don't even matter. Women are looking for things that don't truly matter in a relationship,
Right.
when they should be looking for things like stability and
Right.
Yeah.
reliability and trustworthiness.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
I think a
Exactly.
lot of that happens and is because they don't know where, they didn't get the guidance on where to look for that and how to look
Yeah.
for it.
or
and
even
maybe
what
they
it
never
looks
seen
like.
it.
Right.
They never
Yeah.
seen it. So like me, I grew up with my dad in the house, so I know what a real man looks like. You know what I mean? So, and even though I in a past relationship, I went the complete opposite of my dad. But when I met Philip, like and even in that relationship, I knew it wasn't right, you know. But you know, just having him, Philip, to be like the complete opposite and to be so much like I was used to seeing in my home, I knew that he was marriage material. Right. He was husband material.
That was I'm kind of the opposite of you. I didn't grow up seeing that at all, but that made me intentional to look out at all the things that I did see. I knew, oh no, it ain't that, it ain't that, and it ain't that. So no. But then when I came across my husband, it was literally the very first day that we met. At that time, we had a lot of growing. We've known each other for a long time, so we were friends for a while before we actually entered a relationship. But in that moment, in general, just being able to recognize, like, oh, you different, like, okay, like. This is nice. And that's really what you have to step outside your comfort zone. Because sometimes if you did grow up in those toxic environments, you didn't see what that looked like, you can in a way be dependent on just those experiences because that's all you know. And you're and you're even sometimes too, like you kind of had mentioned, like how your wife, she offered an energy that was very different during conflict resolution. And during that time in particular, it's like, it's a little taken back. Like, oh, I ain't expecting that. Like,
what do I do with this?
That. Yeah. Like, what is this? Like, yeah. So, but that's actually great because it opens you up to new experiences. And that's what I love about relationships. But on the topic of conflict resolution, I did want to get into, because this is big. We always talk about when it comes to relationships, it's not so much what you do when things are happy that determines how long you're going to stay together, but more so what you do when things aren't going good that really determines, how long you're going to stay together and how actually the strength of your relationship lies in how you treat each other during that time. So if you want to share, we would love to hear maybe an experience that you all had to work through that was really difficult and you had to come through. How did you do it? And if you have any insight on like some ways that, how you had to grow or learn from that experience as well, would be great to share.
Well, I know one thing for him, he doesn't like like I can't, if I repeat the same thing over and over, or if I keep asking him questions over and over, or maybe the same question, he gets agitated very easily. Or if I tell him to do something and he's like, I don't want to do that. And I keep saying, well, maybe just try it. Just try this. I don't want to do that. And he gets upset if I keep going. So I have to catch myself when I do that, because I don't mean any harm. I'm just, for me, I'm just trying to, see what something looks like on him or whatever, but it triggers him. And I forget that sometimes. And I have to deal with the blowback of that. And I'll tell him, you know what, baby, I'm sorry. I'll work on it. But in the moment, he's like, he don't want to hear that. He was like, I told you this before. You know what I mean? So that's definitely something that we trip over that one. I won't say all the time, but it's something that happened early in our relationship, and I think it stopped. And then recently it happened. It happened recently. That's why it's on my mind. But it's not something that happens all the time, but definitely something that I have to remember about him. He doesn't like for me to be pushy about anything.
I know for me, this is actually recent as this past weekend. So there are certain conversations that you have in passing or whatever the case may be that you try to be as honest as possible and everything like that, but you don't dive too deep into the response or the answer. So you sort of just make a comment and then you move on, and then everything like that. So essentially something came up where it was like, hey, I've this is where I'm at, this is how I feel, and I don't see my opinion on this changing anytime soon, right? And it ended up being that was on my side anyways. I was like, hey, this is where I'm at, this is how I'm feeling, and I don't think I'm going to change my opinion anytime soon. Now I am open to, like, I'm not closing the door on anything, but I don't think my position on this is going to move too soon, right? And that was a shock to her, especially because it was something that meant a lot to her, and she hadn't been expecting my response. Um, and it started off as a light conversation where it was just like, yada, yada, yada. Oh, this is how I feel about it. And it ended up turning into like, oh, this not necessarily a red flag or anything like that. And I'm saying that because that's what she told me. I try, I'm doing my best not to put words in anybody's mouth. But she was like, this is something that means a lot to me, and I would like you to. It's an aspect of my life that's very important, and I would like you to be a part of it. And as it ended up being this conversation that I wasn't expecting to have about like, you know, even though this is a big part of my life, and I would like you to be a part of it. I also understand that you not being a part of it does not necessarily reflect on your character or on who you are or anything like that. So the conversation, and this is the main point I was trying to get to, the conversation stayed at a place of, I care about you, and that's why I want to have this conversation. And I care about you, and that's why we're having this conflict, because I'm not sure how to move forward with this disagreement that we're having, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to, oh well, we disagree, so kick rocks. I'll catch you on the flip. You know,
Yeah.
for both of us, it ended up being a thing where it's like I don't currently see a path forward, but from my side of things, I don't want the path forward to be I don't want the path forward to be we go our separate way, and like you said, that conflict resolution piece is something that ultimately helped because it was like, all right, at least the way we fight, I won't even call it a fight, the way we disagree, it's like both of us are, at least so far, pretty good at letting the other person know, like, hey, this is not me attacking you. This is not me coming at you specifically. This is me going at the topic.
Yeah.
And coming from that place, we managed to we try to keep it kind and we try to keep it caring. And that's part of how we are able to have conflict in the ways that we do and still come back together and be like, okay, yes, I know this is how you're feeling, but this is how I feel. And even if I may not have a solution right now, or you may not have a solution right now, we both know that this one conflict is not just going to end up with, you know what, oh well, I hate you forever now, so go away. It's
Mhm.
it's not that.
Right.
Yes, we
You're
feel
getting some good
strongly about
practice.
certain things. Exactly.
Uh,
Yes, we feel strongly about certain things and we both have opinions and we both have our standpoints, but it's like, all right, the standpoints we have are they're a reflection of our experience and they're not necessarily a reflection of how we feel about the other person.
Mhm.
And coming from there, that definitely helped ensure that everything stayed, like I said, kind, relatively calm, and emotional still, but still relatively calm, and not nobody threw any pans at nobody's head and nothing like that.
I I think for me, she mentioned the word trigger, which is partially correct. Well, I won't say partially, but I think for me, one thing I probably still struggle with a little bit is that I see something in my mind is like a machine, and it's like I go into like, all right, it's got to be this way, this way. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think for me, when she comes and tries to change it, or politely try to, you know, like she said, like it doesn't have to be this way. Try this. And like for me, my mind is like a machine. It's like this big red error comes up, like error, 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 because because it's like, all right, as a man, my mind and my eyes have seen. I've done it this way for 30 plus years. So when she comes and like, well, I'll give you a brief example, right? Maybe like the first 3 months we were married, she moves in, and I'll never forget. I'm sitting there on the computer working, and I look at her. She's looking around in the living room, right? She's looking around in the living room, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "I think I want to redecorate the living room." And my mind went ballistic because I'm like, "Why?" So and that's why I say I feel like sometimes as a man, it's like I'm taking the pride in decorating it. I've spent the money. This is the visionary, and I think this is maybe something I need to work on as far as like the visionary me, where it's like, all right, if it's set, why do we need to change it? And I get very defiant, and I'm like, why? What's the reason? And I always tell her, we've had conversations with this. If your way is better than mine, convince me why it is, right? And that's where the rebel in me and the defiant can come in. And I have to pull back a little bit because I have to be kind and nice. I have to be like, I got to be like, okay, let me just try this. Let me just feel like, okay, give her something. You know what I mean? Let me, is she shaking her head? Because, it's true. It's true. And I have to.
In my mind, usually I'm right. Once he actually tries it, he's like, oh, I like this.
Oh,
that worked out well.
Well,
I can say this. One thing that I actually learned, and I actually encourage within my Wifeconomics course with working with women when it comes to understanding men, is the aspect of not offering unsolicited advice too much as a way to allow him to step into that role of,
I agree.
If there is something for him to figure out,
you have to let him. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that for sure.
And that's something we all have to, as women.
And sometimes even as a woman, you just sit back and you watch it, and you know how it's going to unfold, but you just let it play out.
But as a man,
it does help because, as a woman wanting to be a helpmate, it's natural for us to be like, baby, you want to offer that help. So that's totally normal. But it's like, that's that part. Like you said, you had to learn. I had to learn it too. I remember that, like, the step back and let them see, like, I'm gonna let you do your thing. You're gonna figure it out. And then often what I find out sometimes too, and you probably do too, is that you'll be like, dang, maybe I could have tried it this way. And then you go and take it your own little way and make it your own way as a man, how, what works for you. But sometimes like with him, the reason why I kind of got real good at just letting him do it is because he often goes and figures out his own little manly way that his mind thinks different than mine. So it's like my little piece of help caused him to go into a different, his own way of figuring out it on his own, and still allowing him to do that on his own, so.
But I feel like sometimes in my mind, sometimes I feel like she's taking it away from me. It's like, as a man, it's like, all right, you're taking something away from me. And it's like, oh boy, all right, it's a risk to where, okay, your way is better than mine. Cool. Or was there a point of changing it in the first place?
Yeah. And I have to let you know, like, it's not a competition. I'm not trying to be better. It's like, it's trying to make it better for both of us. I'm not trying to change you necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that.
Right.
Yeah, not to let it affect your confidence. But that's why we talk about it can feel like a blow and undermining to the confidence of the man and his ability. Is it like, are you saying you don't trust me to do this the way that I feel like I can do it? Like, let me do it. And it's trying not to step on them toes because he is a leader and you want him to grow and you want him to learn. And sometimes in a way, we kind of get in the way of that growth by offering our advice or our help too soon. And that's why I say don't offer too much unsolicited advice. Just wait, be supportive, hang back, and wait for him to be like, what you think about this? Sometimes it comes out, especially after you done funneled for a while and he's just bouncing ideas. Wait for that moment to where he does come and say, and what I often kind of another point on that is what I see is it'll create like an environment to where he'll feel comfortable to he sees you allowing him to figure it out, and it'll allow him to relax and allow him to figure it out. And then if he wants to come talk to you about it, he feels more comfortable doing so. And then he's also going to be more receptive because he asked for it versus you know, giving it to him before he asked for it. He's like, I ain't asked for that. But
and I think
yeah.
I think it goes both ways, honestly. Because I mean, fellas, we like to fix stuff. And sometimes the stuff we want to fix don't need to be fixed. Sometimes we just need to leave it alone.
Just listen. Just need you to listen.
So, I mean, I try to do this. I don't always succeed, but I try to do this where I'll ask like, all right, are you looking for a solution or are you just venting right now? Because I mean, if you're venting, I can check this off my list of stuff I need to think about. Because it's like, got it. Cool. You mad? All right.
Cool. What are you trying to tell me here? What do you want me to
Lately, I have noticed that whenever I'm in a in my head about something or worried about something, it affects him. Like now he's trying to figure out, is it something that he needs to fix? Is it something that he's doing wrong? And I'm like, no, it's not you. It's just something I'm working out in my own head, you know?
That's something that I learned later in our relationship, because our mind is always stuck on fixing. And what I had to realize was that my wife was just venting. She just wanted a good listener. She just wanted somebody to just listen. No advice at all, you know, until she asked me, so what do you think? Or how do you feel about this? Because I came from a place of wanting to, okay, now what's the problem again? All right, that's what it is. All right, well then you should be doing this, as opposed to letting her, you know, basically, you know, spill it all out on what the situation is, how it makes her feel. And then sometimes she don't even want any advice at all. You know, it just women do look for a good listener in a relationship. And often at times that's all it is. And then I thought that was so weird. I was like,
I thought so too.
Like, why are you talking about it if you don't want
the answers? You don't want to know the answer? How to fix it?
It's something I've had to adjust to too, because I actually had this conversation with her, and I was like, look, I will do my best to ask you if you are just venting or you actually want advice. But at a certain point, if you have vented to me about this same thing 6, 7 times and there has been no solution, I'm a suggest some stuff. Even you may not necessarily want it, because it's like we done had this discussion 9 times about how you can't stand Becky at work. Okay, cool. Becky at work annoying, but I mean, you still seem to find yourself next to Becky at work. So what do you like? How do we fix the situation?
Right. And then the answer is, then if she continues to talk about it, then you tell her to leave Becky at work. Well, I wanted to ask this question to all of you all too. So what do you think is the biggest challenge facing relationships today? There's one thing. What do you think that biggest challenge is facing relationships today?
Selfishness, in my opinion. Self-centeredness, really. Not putting yourself in the other person's shoes, not trying to see things from their perspective. Always thinking about what you want, not ever thinking about what they may need or what they may want. I think if we could start doing that, we'll see a whole lot more relationships stay together, in my opinion.
I would say expectations. I think people are putting more expectations on their partner than they are on themselves. They're expecting their partner to go above and beyond the world when they're not even willing to spend a lifetime with them. So, you know, I feel the magic word here is expectations.
Good ones. That was good.
Selfishness and expected. Those were the first two that I sort of went to, but I also think one of the biggest issues is for lack of a better term, the preconceived notions, right? We go into relationships believing that it's supposed to look a certain way and we are
Mhm.
not supposed to. I mean, I think it falls into the expectations category, but we go in thinking it's going to look a certain way and we confine ourselves to, all right, if it doesn't look like this thing, then obviously it's not right, without doing the work to, without being intentional about creating the type of relationship that we want. And of course, there's always that part of it that, like, it takes two to create a relationship, and if that other person isn't willing to put in that work, then obviously it's not going to. But so I would say I guess it would be intention. Like, a lot of people are not intentional about creating what they want. They go in with, this is how it's supposed to look like, but
Yeah.
they're not necessarily willing to put in the work to create what they're interested in, because
Yeah.
it's, like I said, it is work and it's not always fun. So
Right.
And that expectation piece is big too. Like you guys are saying, I think both of you guys kind of said what you said had a lot to do with expectations. Both of you. But I was also thinking while you were talking, and the expectations. It's like you're competing with what people see on social media in relationships. You're seeing all these other couples, and you think everybody else's relationship is perfect, or that he's buying her this, and that you should get it too, or she looks this way, or she's acting this way, and why don't you do it? It's like always looking around at what you see on TV or social media and putting that on your partner, or either expecting your partner to completely, save you and change your life, which relationships do change your life, but it's like you sit back and you wait for this other person to give you the fairy tale.
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
all of that is true. Those are good
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. I think for me, I would mainly say fear. I think fear has crippled a lot of people in different ways. Like, and it's like everybody seems to be fearful of giving it a try, or fearful of what could happen, like if I do this, like, or just repeating cycles. Like, people don't, trauma, we always talk about trauma being
Getting
riddled
hurt again.
in our society. So it's just, I think if people, again, we hit on that earlier, if they could really just kind of let go into that space of allowing love to come in, being open to it, releasing those expectations y'all are talking about, those preconceived notions, all of that. Like, if people can kind of just let it go and be open to the feeling of peace and love that really just comes in at a pure state. It can't be.
I guess the question is, how do you know? Like, when do you know you can trust it? Like, what are the things to look for, to know that it's real, or to know that you won't get hurt, or that it's safe? I mean, you always have to be willing to deal with the fact that you could get hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right.
how can you minimize that risk by choosing the right partner, or looking for the right characteristics in a partner? That's something I think a lot of people need help with.
Well, I think, Kawana, one of the things is that you're fortunate in your upbringing, and you have resources, which are your parents. That information that a lot of our generation is missing.
Yeah.
Because, like my wife, I was raised by my mom. My father was, he had left, so a lot of that information I couldn't get with him, as far as like what to look for in a woman, or what are the right characteristics in a woman that I need to look for. And then and then often at times, to be honest with you, even the generation before him, his parents, they couldn't even tell you that, because they just got together. So we're living in different times, and relationships is a risk. But you have to use discernment and go off of past experiences of your parents, and what you see as successful relationships. Seek advice from people like that in order to really get that understanding of what a good spouse looks like.
Yeah.
And what a bad spouse look like as well.
Yeah, education. Right. That's why we started our channel in particular, because we noticed they taught us sex education in school. And just today we were saying we needed relationship
Right, that's
education.
the last thing we should have been learning. Right.
That is what we
and that's what got us in trouble. Everybody just
exactly.
want to have sex.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. But what we needed was to highlight what my husband was saying. Exactly. All of that, the things to look out for. And then on top of it, how to go about these things in a healthy way, right? Making sure that you're ready as a woman, as a man. Are you ready to enter this relationship? Do you know what it's going to take? Do you know what you're getting into? You know, I often hear a lot of women who want to be wives, and the things that they say, it's like, that's not
It don't
really
match up.
that does not really go on. So it's like you then get into a situation and you like, oh, I never, those preconceived notions then get challenged, right? And you're like, hey, I don't know anything about this. I'm not ready for this. So I think that makes a huge, and again, the fear of the unknown, right? Everybody's fearful of something, and love is one of those things where you don't know, like kind of, where it's going to go. So I think if people were more educated on how to do this, make the right decisions, and then once you can lean on that information within yourself, you'll have more trust on your ability to pick the right spouse, to put yourself in the right situations, to make the best decisions for yourself, not so much just making a decision out of the willy-nilly. And I think that's what we got wrong a lot. And now I'm just super glad that it's shifting, where people are talking more, we're having conversations, we're sharing experiences, we're helping the younger generations learn, because they got a lot of information in their phone, right there.
It's so much. It's so much to compete with. They need. You're right. Like, they need all the lessons they can get from wherever it can come from, because it's so many things competing, like so many negative examples competing with positive examples and positive educational relationships.
Right. Yep.
I also think that I think a lot of young folks, and I say young folks, but I'm not the smartest dude out there. I don't have all the information or anything like that. But like, I think a lot of people, um, they they try to stick with things that no longer, like, things that worked a certain way at one time don't necessarily work the same way at this time, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Like what?
that's so. For instance, like, I've noticed that like whether we're talking about history or whatever the case may be, things tend to go in like waves, or the pendulum swings back and forth, whatever the case may be. So like, in, for instance, the 70s, and I just said I'm not old, but I'm talking about the 70s, so catch 22. But like, in the 70s, that was 60s and 70s, that was like the free love era, where like, oh, your sexual awakening and all of that sort of stuff. And I would say currently, in the like 2010s to whatever year we're in right now, we experience something similar, where it's like, you know what, love is love, love who you want, all of that
Mm-hmm.
sort of stuff. But there there wasn't as much risk back then as there is now. Well, it's not like there wasn't that much risk, but the risks were different. So we've sort of gone back into that, like, that space of like, love who you love who you want, enjoy yourself, and as long as everybody's happy and safe, we'll all be good. But that mindset, yes, it's beautiful, it's a beautiful sentiment, but you have to take a few more things into account now than you had to do back then. For instance, love is love, do what you want. Well, back then in the 70s, there weren't people around walking around with a cell phone everywhere, so they could record the love that you were doing. And all of a sudden now you have a reputation. Or, there were people weren't as aware of health concerns. People weren't, like, so it's like the sentiment is the same, but the consequences are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said that, like, look, freedom of choice is beautiful. It's a wonderful thing, but freedom of choice and freedom of consequence are two completely different things. And I think a lot of people have, especially these days, they get to the point of, and this is sort of the downside of individuality and social media and all of that sort of stuff. You get to the point where it's like, oh, I'm free to do what I want to do. And it's like, yes, you are free to do what you want to do. Nobody will tell you any different. But that freedom does not exempt you from consequences to
Mm-hmm.
the actions you are taking. And that's why I say, you know, that's why I said what I said, because it's like, yeah, you can, the things that worked back then that were essentially things that we didn't have as much information about, or things that we were willing to let slide. It's the same thing with like cancel culture or whatever the case may be. Like if you do some of the things that we were doing in the 90s or watching in the 90s or listening to in the 90s, if you put that out now, it's like, oh, you do not pass go straight to social jail and nobody's messing with you ever again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I mean, I may have lost the plot a little bit, but like that's sort of what I meant in terms of like what what worked back
Work
in the there
then doesn't
what
work now.
worked then doesn't necessarily work now, or at least there's different contextual things you need to take into account if you want to enact those same things.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a lot of factors. Yep.
Yeah. So we're coming down to our last question for you all. So we wanted to ask, what is some advice? So what is some advice you would like to leave in the fact that I guess in looking towards relationships in a healthy way? So what advice do you all have to give our viewers and our listeners to as a blueprint towards healthy relationships?
Mhm.
What makes relationships healthy?
Yeah, something that you do within your relationship, or something that you would encourage a single person to do, or even a married couple. Any advice? The last, the number one thing that pops in your head. Usually I say when something like this come up, let it flow, whatever leaves on your heart.
I would say, if to our single ladies and gentlemen out there, especially our men, because I know a lot of women are gonna do this anyway. I would say, initially, if you're single, you're talking to someone, you're dating, or interested in taking it a step further into a relationship, I would say do your homework. I would say, in terms of doing your homework, I would ask the important questions, right? Um, and it made me think about this earlier. I think most questions are asked, like men. What most questions aren't asked by men because men feel like they shouldn't be asked. But in my opinion, I feel like these questions should be asked. Are your parents still together? What are your views on marriage? Um, kind of what is kind of your plan? In the next 5 years, does it kind of similar to what you want to accomplish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are if you're looking for marriage or you're looking for a serious relationship, ask those questions as far as some of the things like, what are your thoughts on finances? What are your thoughts on traveling? Some of the things that you like to do. What are your beliefs? What are you believe in God? Do you not believe in God? If those things are important, then those are the initial questions. I know sometimes there's this thing where the first date shouldn't be an interview, but let's be real about it. If you're willing to spend your time, effort, money, potential lifetime with this person, you got to do your homework.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, for the people that are in a relationship or even married, um, I will say this, right? I used to have thinking that we've got to do something every day. I used to think that it's always about spending money. It's always about I gotta one up the day before of us doing something. I will say this, right? Um, make sure you're spending time together. Most importantly, set up a date night once a week. If you can, twice a week. Set up a date night to where, it doesn't have to be extravagant, doesn't have to be expensive. Doing something to where you're spending time. It can be in an ambient place, go to a movie, go to a picnic, something to where you're finding yourself reconnecting. Because let's be real, there are a lot of things in the world that are going on right now. You got to go to work. Work stresses you out. A lot of other things, and I can say that from a man. A lot of other things to be stressing you out, right? And you got to be able to turn that light switch off and be able to connect with your partner. Mm-hmm. So I will say, really, really, really set up a date night to really just clear your mind, reconnect with your partner, speak to your partner, vent to your partner, and just really, really spend time, because that's what's most important. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what I would say. Find ways to spend time with your partner.
Yeah. I guess he said a lot of good things there. So I'll just pick up where he left off. I think you should look for the person that you can sit with and be able to just spend time with without being entertained necessarily. Like the fact that you two can entertain each other and that you love to actually be together, not necessarily under each other all the time or constantly, in each other's face, but that you can be happy just doing nothing. Like sitting at home is fine. Yeah. Obviously I think a date night is important to get out and just spend one-on-one time, face to face and talking or whatever. But if you can find the person that you can truly get along with and not have to bicker with and fight with, and they're triggering you and you're triggering, well, that's part of a relationship. That's going to happen as you grow together. But finding somebody that you can grow with, someone that you can lean on, someone you can trust with your heart, someone that you can be yourself with, someone who you can accept for who they are. Like those are the important parts of, like, as far as finding the right person. And then when you have them, you protect that bond. Don't let anything come between it. Not even when when you have disagreements or don't get along. Figure out a way to resolve it. Mm-hmm. Figure out a way to, not go to bed angry with each other. And don't go outside of your relationship or do anything that can possibly, treat it like it's a precious egg or something, and it can't, you don't want it to be broken. Just treat it right. Once you find it, cherish it and treat it right.
Nice. Well said. Mm-hmm. All right, Jay, for you.
So for me, I think, and it's gonna sound counterintuitive, but I think for the single folks, I would say take refuge in your purpose. A lot of people are gonna say, like, when you hear that, a lot of people will assume I'm saying, "Oh, okay, so just don't worry about anybody else and focus on me, and ignore the entire world." It's like there are parts of that that are true, but what I'm saying is, for me, anyways, for my experience, when I started focusing on achieving in the ways that I wanted to achieve, when I started focusing on becoming the person that I wanted to become, part of being the complete, well-rounded person that I wanted to be was a relationship. Mm-hmm. And so, as part of my purpose, I started being intentional about being like, okay, let me find my person. Let me find the person who will help me achieve my purpose. Let me find the person who will help me achieve my goals. And not in a selfish way, in terms of like, oh, as long as I can use this person to get ahead, then that's it. No, not from that perspective, but from the perspective of, like, we steel sharpens steel, right? Like, we help each other progress to where we are trying to get to. And in that space, the natural extension of that is, like, once you have found your purpose and once you have included somebody else in that, it's like, all right, don't, like I said, the relationship, at least for me, the relationship has become a part of my purpose. And so as a result of that, like Juana said, I'm not going to do anything that takes me away from my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try and I'm not going to try and go outside of my relationship for things that I'm not getting. I'm going to go to my partner for, it's like, all right, I need this from you. Are you able to give it to me? You know, and it's like, yes or no. If if it's something that you should be getting from within, then hopefully you have the self-awareness, you have the wherewithal to be like, you know what, I shouldn't be going to somebody else. This is something that I need to be doing as part of my purpose, as part of my journey. This is what it is. And as an extension of that, it will make you a better partner. It will make you a better match for the person you are with, you know. So for the single folks, I would say take refuge in your purpose. And for the folks in the couple, I would say like Juana said, if you don't feel like if you don't feel like building something with this person is going to take you to where you need to go, then that unfortunately that's not the person you need to be with.
Mm-hmm.
So your match should be somebody who you feel like makes you want to achieve, makes you want to be better, makes you want to exceed in ways that you didn't even think about when you were by yourself, you know. And I think like Juana said, you have to be precious about that because it's not necessarily something that's easy to find. So you have to protect it. You have to foster it, and you have to be intentional about it.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, don't take your spouse or your significant other for granted.
Mm.
Yeah, most definitely.
Mhm.
So with that being said, where can we find you all? So what's your platform again?
Well, Kawana's kind of the architect of the Last Podcast, so you can find us everywhere on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook at Let's Rap Podcast. Of course, we are also distributed on uh, Google, uh,
Google
Apple
Podcast.
Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Let's Rap Podcast on Instagram. Of course, like I said, everywhere on social media. Also, my Instagram is the Real Philosophical 23. That's kind of where I do kind of music and also post a lot of the podcast stuff there, and also do a sports podcast. So yeah, so Let's Rock Podcast everywhere on all major platforms, streaming platforms, of course.
Yep.
All right.
And I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook somehow. Instagram and Facebook at J Echo. I also have it's still on the Let's Rap Podcast YouTube channel, but I also have a echo chamber show that I do. Different guests, a slightly different vibe, but same intention, which is to just share and teach, and that's about it.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Thank you all. This is new for our Instagram. So right after this, we are definitely going to be able to upload this that was on YouTube onto Instagram so that our Instagram viewers will get the new experience for those that are tuning in. Unfortunately, it's really hard to do this live on Instagram and on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah,
So
but they hung in there. So
yeah,
we
we
got
had
25 Instagram viewers.
yeah, they dropped on in. So we are so glad. And Facebook and YouTube, thank you all for joining us tonight. As we grow, we're going to get better and better of how to present this and bring this in because we think this is going to be great. We really appreciate you all for coming in and sharing your experiences. We really look to offer value for our community. I think we did this tonight. So
Yep.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
for having
y'all
us.
for having
Thank you
us.
for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
It's a
so
good
much.
time.
Yeah. So with that being said, Blueprint family, thank you all for joining us. It is the weekend, so enjoy yourselves. You made it to the weekend, and you all have a wonderful one. So with that being said, peace.
Peace.
Take it easy, y'all.
All right.
think we're still live.
That was good, baby. That was an hour and 19 minutes. How do I end this?
I don't know.